Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. All right, welcome back to part 4 of our second look at the America map. And just to do a quick recap, in part 1 we did a rapid expansion. We went out through Atlanta to Nashville to St. Louis to Kansas City and down to Odessa, Texas, way down here. And then we focused our efforts on growing Odessa, Texas quickly because one of our tasks was to make Odessa the largest population city on the map, and we accomplished that and got it over 50,000, and now it's up around, I think it's like 193,000, so it's doing very well. Thank you very much. So Odessa continues to grow, and we did that by doing, I almost think of it as a one-city cluster. We built lines that brought all the different things into Odessa that were needed, and even things that it didn't yet need, like milk. We built a milk line in like here, and we built a fruit line to come in, and sugar even, and veggies even before it was needed. And that way, as soon as it hit whatever population need to hit to get those things, a train would be there ready to go and bring in those goods, so it could just keep right on rolling and keep on growing. And so it has done great for us. Then we went into heavy city growth mode and started doing two-city clusters. So we went over here to Atlanta and built a two-city cluster between Atlanta and Washington, and they are doing great. And in fact, I see, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Then we did our next two-city cluster. We decided to expand out to new turf, and we went out here to New York and Portland and built those two up. And you can see we've hit 90,000 because we've got 3 industries in each, and the only way there could be 3 industries is if they've hit the 90,000. You can also see Washington hasn't. We'll come back to that. That's going to be one of our little fixes for this session. Then we did, and that was in part 2. Then we did Chicago and Toledo, and you can see both of those have grown nicely, and they both have 3 industries. They're at 90,000. Then we added, down here, we added Nashville and Memphis, and you can see Nashville's already hit the 90. Memphis got to be on the edge. Where is it? 86.8 and growing, so it's almost there. So we're looking good there. And then what else did we do? And then we decided, well, our last two-city cluster we built, we need 12 cities. We got the one from Odessa. That means we need one more city plus 5 two-city clusters. So our 5th and final two-city cluster is right here, St. Louis and Indianapolis. And it's a baby. It has just started. It's the last one we built. We're going to work on it a little bit in this episode as well. But I want to show you what we did to get our 12th city, that one odd city we need. We went down here, and in Odessa, we had all this infrastructure already in place, pumping stuff into Odessa. So what we did was say, okay, well, fine, let's just build El Paso the same way. So El Paso was this tiny little burg. It had one meat industry in it. We bought the meat, switched it out for beer so that we could have a beer meat line running between Odessa and El Paso, and we could take advantage of that wheat that we were already putting into El Paso, because that was one of our objectives, was to get grain into El Paso. Then we just doubled up all these tracks, like for example up here, this log line. We just expanded the station, used one platform for Odessa, the other platform for El Paso. So now we've got the same deal with El Paso basically that we did in Odessa, where we've got all these things queued up to go in there. Like you can see right here, there's a fruit line going into El Paso. Now it may or may not be taking fruit at this point. It doesn't matter. We've got it ready. We've got a milk line going into El Paso. We've got corn going into El Paso. We have wheat. We have sugar and veggies. You get the idea. So El Paso is nicely ready to grow. At one point, as it hit the 40,000 mark, we saw that there was a paper mill over here in Odessa, which needs logs. So we put a logging industry here in El Paso. So now we've got we own the 2 industries here, and we've got them bumped up to level 3. We're getting 87% satisfaction. So El Paso is growing great guns. And the nice thing is, because of the way we've done it, similar to the Odessa one, it's all queued up, so whatever it needs next will automatically come to it up to a point, but certainly up to a point where we can get it up to 90,000. So that's going to take care of one of them. So there's a couple down there. And if we just kind of swing back around them, we've got Atlanta has 90. Washington does not. So we'll come back and take a look. Well, let's just take a quick look at Washington and see what the deal is. Oh, Washington has 100,000. Excuse me. What's the deal here? Come back here. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Eyes must be deceiving me. Washington has hit the 90,000. New York has hit 90. Portland has hit 90. I'm not crazy about that industry, but I don't really care at this point. I can swap that out or do whatever, but it's okay. We might change that later if we think about it. We've got our 90s up here, so how do we stand? All right. We have 8 cities that have hit 90,000. We need 4 more. So that would be El Paso, St. Louis, and Indianapolis. And there's one missing. So something is fooling me here. What's going on? Nashville has definitely hit it. It's at 120,000. So what is going on here? All right, so why do we only have 8? All right, I'm going to have to go count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That makes sense. And Odessa's 8. All right, good. So 9 will be El Paso, 10 will be Memphis, 11 Indianapolis, 12 St. Louis. Okay, good deal. All right, so we've got everything set and ready to succeed. So let's go find out why we're not quite there. Here's Memphis. Well, it's at 71% and it's at 89,000. It's going to pop here any minute, so that'll give us 9. So we don't have to worry about Memphis. Didn't think so. So there's 8. That'll make 9. El Paso looks great. That's 10. And our other 2, then, of course, are these guys right here, St. Louis and Indianapolis. They're going to be our last 2 probably. And St. Louis is growing beautifully. When it hits 40, we can put a new industry in there and help it along. So it's in fine shape. But the one thing I notice here is I don't like. Remember I said you have to, in other videos I said you have to watch your industries. Even though you have a beautiful setup going with your pass-through warehouses and a nice warehouse with goods in it and all that stuff, you have to watch the industries. Well, we hit that 40,000 mark, and a computer owner, one of those private investors, went in and put a chemical plant in Indianapolis. Well, the only place Indianapolis ships directly is St. Louis. So St. Louis is way too small to need chemicals, and so is Indianapolis. So that chemical plant is not really helping these 2 cities grow. Now, if we had a use for the chemicals, we could certainly use them, of course, and ship them to another city, like cities that could use it. So one way we could do this, let's just see here. Chemicals. Yeah, here you go. We have a demand in Toledo for chemicals. We could ship our chemicals off to Toledo. We could ship them off to Chicago. So we could turn that chemical plant into a good moneymaker just by opening up a couple of lines and running automatic routes there. Wouldn't have to do anything else, and that would be a good thing. The only thing I don't like about that is we're very specifically trying to get that 90,000 mark. And yes, he would grow, but he's not contributing to the growth in St. Louis the way he could be if he had a different business. So even though it would be kind of redundant to the overall area, I would prefer that he had a textile industry similar to Toledo, so that we could run some cotton from over here into Indianapolis. Now, that textiles is something Indianapolis could use much sooner, and that's something that St. Louis could use much sooner, and that way we would be promoting growth for both places. So I'm going to go buy this chemical factory for a reasonable price. Then I'm going to destroy this chemical factory, and I'm going to put in a weaving factory or a textile company. Where am I going to put it? Let's put it out there out of the way. Okay. And I am going to bump it up to at least a level 2. All right, so now we have a weaving factory in Indianapolis. So we need to bring some cotton into Indy. And I think, let me see if this, okay, this station will actually hit it. It might be clumsy. I think what we're going to do, we're going to build another station, put it over here. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having multiple stations hit these farms and mines and plantations and what have you. So we're going to run a line like so that's going to hook up with this line going into Indianapolis. Or we could, in fact, we've got a free line out here. We've got a free platform. Why don't we take advantage of that? Instead of creating a potential traffic jam, let's just go ahead and make a dedicated line running from our little cotton industry here over to Indianapolis. You may hear a little noise. We're having a bit of a storm here right now. Nothing big, but kind of heavy rain. All right, so now let's run trains into Indianapolis with cotton. And we're up to Dragons now. And we do want a security guard. Okay. And let's run another one. And we don't have any people to put on, but that's okay. And let's see, what about, why not run one more? Okay, so now Indy is going to have a good textile company. And over here in St. Louis, where they've got, they're getting lumber and they'll be getting textiles. So we can go with a lumber mill or we can go with a clothing factory. Either one would be good choices in St. Louis to help them grow. So all we're going to do now is watch the growth. Now, if I wanted to, of course, we've got tons of money coming in. You know, our economy is solid, rock solid. We're making a lot of money. We could go out and do, if we were into it, we could go out and build and try to, hook up all the cities and run giant express mail passenger lines or whatever we wanted to do. But honestly, I'm getting a little tired of this one. So what I want to do is finish it. So I'm going to babysit these two. El Paso really doesn't need any babysitting because we've already got two good industries. Once you get two good industries in your cities, and you're either in a two-city cluster or this kind of one-city cluster, if you will, like we're doing here, you're good to go because the next threshold is 90, and that's our target is 90. So we don't have to worry about a third business. So El Paso is going to get really good supplies and just stay at a very high satisfaction. It's 79%, and it'll stay near that. In fact, when it hits 60, the one thing we have to watch for El Paso now is just to put that museum in at 60,000 to make sure we keep going. So we'll be on museum watch, and we did our one key thing here by swapping out that industry in Indy. So now it's just a matter of watching them grow. So this is going to be a little bit of paint dry. We said that this one was almost, see, here we go. Memphis has already hit our 90,000, and now we have the opportunity to put an industry in there that we like. So let's see what they're getting. we've got a distillery, we've got logs and paper. So what could we do that would be easily, let's see here. What do we got? Oh, we could make, well, we don't have candy yet. Are they getting plenty of milk? If they're getting milk, we'll put maybe a dairy in here. That would be good. Yeah, they're getting plenty of milk. Let's put a dairy business in here. And again, for our purposes of hitting our goals, it does not matter. But we'll put a dairy in here. We'll bump it up. Why not? Why not bump it up again? All right, so now we've got a dairy. It's going to make us good money. It's going to sell dairy to Memphis, and it's going to ship dairy to Nashville. Life is good, and so we'll just keep on going. And I really think, I guess we could go out here, like for example, that business I didn't like in Portland. If we wanted to, we could say, okay, Portland, you don't really need a chemical factory. And see how its satisfaction has drooped a little bit. But we are hitting that limit. You know, there's a point here. You can't load these guys up forever with just a 2-city cluster. You've got to go out and bring in some more stuff if you want to go beyond that 120 mark. So we're kind of hitting up against those limits now. But like I said, I'm kind of, now we could easily run this. Here's a nice coal mine out here in, where is this? Somewhere to the east and north of Pittsburgh. There's a coal business, and we could easily run a direct line of coal into Portland, and then that chemical plant would actually be making money. And I think, yeah, and both these cities would be big enough to use it. So it's something to do. So let's just do that while we're waiting. While we're watching our paint dry, or our grass grow, or however you want to think of it, we will go ahead and run this guy into Portland. And I think I want to run him around everything and through this little gap. And where can we put him in Portland? Portland actually has a station that's empty, and we could easily put another station in there if we wanted to. I think it'll let us. Yep. So let's just put a line like that and run it across these guys. And out through this pass. Now the other way we could think about this is, am I filling up all 6 of these slots? Yes, we're bringing in 6 goods there, so we don't want to mess with our warehouse. So let's put a station like so. And kind of a high bridge right there. What can we do to fix that? There, that's not bad. And we'll double track it, even though we certainly don't need to. We could just build a pass through or a passing lane in 1 or 2 places, but I prefer double tracks all the way. Just so much easier. Every time in the past when I say, well, I won't double track this one, I turn around later in the game, and sure enough, I need to double track it for whatever reason. and then I end up double tracking it anyway. So I've just kind of gotten to the point where I just always double track. Unfortunately, the presence of that bridge is messing us up here. There we go. Okay, so now we'll get some coal moving to Portland, and we'll have a successful chemical factory there. So looking good. And let's check in on our 3 cities that we're kind of watching. Indy is growing, and we're waiting for it to hit that 60,000 mark to put in a museum. We're waiting on St. Louis to hit that 40,000 mark. And El Paso is doing great and closing in on the 60,000. And I'm thinking I don't usually pay attention to the achievements and stuff, but there's something about getting all the trains researched or something like that that we might as well do that while we're in here. Not sure how that works exactly. And again, we haven't set maintenance on anything, which I think is just criminal, but it's true. So I'm going to fast forward now, and I'm going to keep going with this, but we will kind of fast forward from here until we get closer to the end, because I'm just I'm not going to go ahead and keep building stuff. I have to have a reason for building stuff. I can't just build it to be doing it. I'd have to be solving a problem or working toward a task, not just building for the sake of building. So let's fast forward this puppy and let it keep running, and then we'll come back when we get closer to. Oh, wait a minute. Now here, I see missing equipment. Aha! It's that new line we just built. I didn't give them. No, I did give them a supply tower. What's going on here? Which train is missing equipment? Oh, it's this line here. By the way, I do not pay blackmail. I just don't. I don't negotiate with terrorists. I don't pay blackmail. If somebody's going to mess up one of my farms or whatever, then so be it. I'll just recover over time. And remember, we don't care about the breakdowns. They're surprisingly uninteresting to us. Now this one is interesting. Missing equipment. So we don't have a tower. For that guy. Okay. All right. We'll be back. We'll rejoin the action, if you will, a little bit later on. So I'm just going to let this keep running and keep watching it. If anything exciting happens, I'll stop it and bring you back in. Otherwise, we'll let this keep going until we get near the end. All right, so we didn't go very far. This is not exciting by any stretch, but I did realize that I'd forgotten to run a sugar line into our St. Louis, Indianapolis warehouse. So that's what we're doing here right now, is running sugar over to that warehouse, so that that gives them one more item. Now, at the beginning, when I first set it up, I knew that I wasn't running corn into that line, and I was a calculated risk because corn was so far away. And I've decided that I don't want to wait forever for this to finish. I absolutely want these last two to finish off timely, which will give us a better score, and also, frankly, bring this to an end, because I know I'm awful, but I do get bored with these things after a while. So in an effort to make this thing finish, I'm going to go out here and put the sugar into the warehouse, but I'm also going to go out and add corn. There's finally, I found some corn well out to the west of us, and we're going to run that corn into the warehouse so that we have 6 items in the warehouse, and that'll help St. Louis and Indianapolis maintain their growth. You kind of get in these, as you get to each of the thresholds, you tend to hit these kind of critical junctures where you need to make sure you have plenty of stuff in order to get over the edge and keep it above 60%. That's why the museum is so helpful, because when you hit 60, as new items are kicking in that you need, it becomes harder and harder to maintain your growth, and that 10% bonus that the museum gives you for demand satisfaction is just really helpful. But here we're setting up sugar, and then going to go over here to the west a little bit and run a big long corn line, and that way that warehouse will have 6 items in it and will really help our 2 cities to grow. And they're growing okay, but this will just kind of push them over the edge. So won't make you watch the whole corn route laying, but just wanted to make that note that we did have to make a correction in order to make sure that we kept our growth rate at a good clip. So we've moved ahead about 4 months in gameplay. About 4 minutes of gameplay, 4 months of game time, and we've got that second business that we've hit that 40,000 mark in St. Louis. So now we can open a second business, and we're going to put a sawmill in there, because we know that we have logs coming into our warehouse. We know that sawmill can get good supplies. Our meat industry is supplied, so now St. Louis will grow, and those logs can be used in Indianapolis to help it grow and to help St. Louis grow. So now we've got our 2 industries in St. Louis, and we've got our 2 industries in Indianapolis, so we are good to go. We basically now, the only thing left, of course, would be museums. We want to make sure we've got the museum in both these cities so that they will continue to grow. We should be looking good. And we're actually here we've got that Tyson 10-wheeler. It's a little bit faster than the Red Dragon, so we'll go ahead and upgrade all of our trains to the Tyson 10-wheeler. And again, that's like we just did maintenance on our entire fleet, because we've got new trains all over the place, and we're going to just do the market crier and get some more revenue out of our mail. So looking good, and continuing to wait for that growth, and just monitoring these cities and making sure that we get our museums in and that we continue to grow. All right, so we're just about at the end here. Indianapolis is over 100,000 now. El Paso is hit our mark. We're waiting on St. Louis. It's at 85,000 and growing, and we're going to expand our meat industry to make it a larger proportion of the demand so that we can keep that demand, that satisfaction up. And it's kind of teetering at 60. It's not quite nailing it the way we'd like it to. And we're trying to see, and we're noticing that corn is lagging behind a little bit. So we'd like to have some more corn, and in hindsight, I wish I'd just gone ahead and run this long corn line way back in the beginning and had corn piled up in that warehouse. No matter, I don't know if we would have grown any faster or much faster, but just the same, it would have been good to have the corn going in. Those first items, beer, meat, wheat, corn, logs. Really, there's 5. And then cattle for whoever has the meat industry. Those 5 plus cattle are huge. Now here we've hit our 90,000. We've got all our tasks completed. Let's see how we did. So we got our president rating. We got 12 out of 12 on our task. We got 20 out of 20 on our timing. Couldn't have done it any better as far as the numbers are concerned. Got a 48 final rating. And so we've done a pretty good job here. This one was a good one because of that thing where we had to move out to Odessa and grow it early. And then anytime you have to build 12 cities like that, that can be interesting. A little tedious, a little bit of work, but just the same, satisfying when you get it done. So hopefully you saw some things in this that you can apply to your own game. And we will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.